show is brought to you by our friends at Banter. I Hardly Knew Her, a great podcast that we've been checking out featuring our friends Wes and Perry, who talk about all crazy things pop culture. They spend a lot of time talking about Disney, both from days of old and current times, as well as great films like The Last Airbender, and putting together some pretty crazy competitions, such as Hunger Games, Disney style.
I guess Mary Poppins has got to be up there with a bullet.
Oh, yeah, because she's
Right?
so evil. She could totally take everybody out. Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
Tinkerbell will take everyone down.
yeah, but if you stop believing in her, all of a sudden, gonzo, right?
Oh, shit. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. You just keep that carpet bag and that umbrella. She's golden,
Yeah, she's a
right?
maniacal character. She's like one of the worst
Oh,
villains of all time.
Mary Poppins?
Oh, yeah, she's evil.
Oh, yeah.
She is. She is the. If you listen to Mary Poppins and what she says,
Is that why she needs that spoonful of sugar, you think?
oh, please.
Okay.
No, she is mean. She lies to the children. She convinces, she gaslights them constantly.
That's true. Wait, we haven't even gotten to the absent-minded professor. Herbie? Herbie will mess you up.
Herbie will totally. Herbie goes
Oh my God.
bananas.
Exactly. Isn't he on a cruise ship in that one?
Yeah. Herbie.
This card,
Yeah. Look up. Move
Eh,
over, Christine. That's all I have to
right.
say.
Best case scenario, Herbie runs you over. Best case.
If I had to get run over, I'd want it to be by Herbie.
For more information on the show, you can check them out on Facebook, where they are at facebook.com/banterpodcast.
Y is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Oh, what was that picture? What was that picture
Oh.
you sent me that you said we needed to discuss?
Oh, let me tell you a little story.
A man named Jed, or is it a dog named Captain?
It's a dog named Captain.
Yeah.
So, Captain, I think we've discussed his Houdini-isms, right?
No, we haven't. No.
Oh, so Captain is the sweetest little boy in the world. I mean,
Sure.
he's so sweet. He's such a little love. He never has accidents. He never misbehaves. He just wants to be with everybody. He loves the kid, loves everyone. He's a doll. Except that Captain is extremely attached to me. And I thought it was adorable, and yay, I'm the favorite. But I
Right.
have
But you
learned
feel that
now.
about, like, with anybody.
I do.
Yeah.
However, I have learned, as I have learned in the past, that he maybe has some kind of creepy tendencies and maybe could be a
Mm.
stalker dog.
Does he
Maybe.
have, like, a van?
No,
Okay.
but um,
Those, like,
so
chip sunglasses?
oh, he should have chip sunglasses. Okay, but so here's the deal.
Okay.
Where I live, my Fonzie apartment, much like Fonzie, up high above the garage.
Yep,
My
and you gotta hit the jukebox, right?
I always hit the jukebox, and
Okay,
all of
yeah.
my, lovers are their 8x10s are on the slanted wall.
Perfect.
So I have always, with my pets, had a baby gate up, blocking them from going up and down the stairs because the stairs they're not really the right length. People with big feet always trip over them. It's terrible. So I had the baby gate up, and especially with Captain, because I wasn't sure he could even do the stairs when he first arrived because he was chubby.
He's still getting his
And
land legs.
he's still getting his land legs back on the earth.
Right.
So he would notoriously escape through the baby gate no matter what I did.
Mhm.
And I would put
Right.
things up, and he would squeeze his little fat body through. Baby gate would still be there. He'd be sitting at the top of the stairs waiting for me, looking for me.
Did you ever come home and there's just a picture of Rita Hayworth hanging up, and then you look behind it and he had
Yes.
Yes?
He
Okay.
just dug his way through. Yes, exactly. And
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
Morgan Freeman was waiting for him on the beach.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
I started coming up with different contraptions to keep him, and in one spot. So in one 3-hour time period,
Was one of those contraptions a leash?
well, no, he has a leash when he goes for a walk.
Well, no,
So
but I'm saying you could tie the leash to something. He's got a little bit of space, give him some length.
but he'd probably hang himself. Like Anyway, so
I
I
get it. He's
tried.
not Mensa, but let's give him a little credit.
Okay, true. So I tried putting a car seat um, in front of the gate. And he climbed over the car seat and pushed his way through. I have my niece and nephew's car seats. They're usually in my car,
Okay,
but
it's
not
not
really.
like you just are hoarding car seats in case
No,
you
because then I would be the creeper with the van.
right,
But
wake up and find a child in your car.
yeah,
Okay.
no. So he managed to climb over the car seat, work his way through. So I came back an hour later and I figured out another contraption where I put the car seat one on one side, one on the other. So it would be sort of blocked. And
Mhm.
he managed with his little tiny fat body to push the car seat all the way to the other end of the landing, which is not that big, but far enough, and was meeting me at the bottom of the stairs. So I
Was he
called.
happy to see you?
Oh, he was so happy. Couldn't even
Okay.
handle it. He was like losing his mind. So I took him to Dave's and I said, "You have to keep the dog because I can't, like, just bring him over later when you go to work." And I went out on the boat with my aunt and uncle. He drops the dog off
You left the captain on
at Dave's.
shore,
I did because I
and you
couldn't.
went out to sea.
I did, but I usually take him out to sea. But this time I
Wow,
left him on shore. Yes.
that's cold.
So Dave brings him back at 5:45 and sets a contraption up and sends me a picture. And I'll send you that picture because I don't think I sent it to you. This particular contraption is the baby gate, two
Mhm.
car seats back to back, a
Why
small,
does
like,
Dave have car seats?
no, they're at my
Oh,
house. This only
okay,
happens
okay,
at my
sorry.
house.
Okay. I
A
was just wondering how Dave figures into
Yeah,
this.
because he dropped Captain off to me when he went to
Okay,
work. A
gotcha.
curio like a short curio cabinet on the other side. So there's no way this dog can move
30
this.
Hummels
Yes,
and
the Yadro, but yeah, a couple Yadros. And then he proceeds to, like, there's a
collector's
Barbie
plate of the
that's,
royal wedding.
yes, basically. Like, so then he, like, blocked all this stuff. Like, he's got this whole, it looks like the barricade from Les Mis, basically. He leaves.
A very sad-looking Emmett Kelly on velvet, and
Yes, exactly. Yes. So then
okay,
I come
sorry, go
back
ahead.
not 30 minutes later. And mind you, all the furniture in the Fonzie apartment does not belong to me. It belongs to my aunt. So it's not mine.
Mhm.
30 minutes. I come home. I come up the other staircase to find Captain very excited to see me, foam, and a completely trashed sofa bed where it has been clawed and ripped. The
Mm,
entire side of the sofa bed has been ripped. The stuffing has been pulled out and is strewn about the entire apartment. And
mm.
Captain's just wagging his little butt, ecstatic that I'm home.
Was there a poster of Rita Hayworth over the back of the
Yes.
sofa? Okay.
Yes. No, he had labeled the sides of the sofa Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Okay, gotcha.
Mhm.
Um, question for you with this stairwell situation you've got, because that's
Yes.
kind of the main issue here. Have you tried a door?
It's not really built for a door because it's like a half wall. And no, Dave wants to put up like a plexiglass divider on both sides. But then
So
I'm
you can
like,
feel like a bank teller?
yeah, I think he thinks if he can see out, he'll be happy. But he's just
No.
crazy. He's
What about
crazy.
those, like, 2 doors that split in the middle, like, at a horse farm or,
Yeah,
for some reason, some sort of cowboy saloon?
I don't think that would work there.
What about, like, a tack piano like they have at cowboy saloons
Plus,
so he
it's
can
not.
play that
I would like anything that's at a cowboy saloon.
with a little band on his arm while he's playing?
Yes.
Yeah, and a
Yes.
bowler? Okay.
Mhm. And Miss Kitty up in the window, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
alright.
Scott Joplin chiming
May
through
he
the
rest.
stereo.
Right, yeah. Um, wow, that's
Yeah, so
so
it's
what
fine.
do you do? How do you
Because now the bigger issue is how do you keep Captain from going crazy? Like, I feel like he's
yeah,
like a horror dog now.
right,
Um, but secondly, how do I fix the sofa bed? Like, how I can't, what do I reupholster it? I can't just sneak
right,
it out and put something new in.
right. Well, okay, so they're 2 separate issues. How do you keep the dog interested, and how do you fix the sofa bed?
Mhm.
Obviously, the first one's a much easier answer, Sudoku. The second one,
Captain hates math.
uh,
Unless it's C
Archie
coordinates.
Comics.
You might like Archie Comics.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have to bring in what do you call someone who works on leather? A leatherer?
Is it a tanner?
It might be a tanner.
Is that someone we should interview? Maybe we could interview them and they could fix my sofa in the process. But it's not
Oh,
really
that's
leather.
devious.
I think it's like a ultra suede or something. It's a really weird material.
Oh, okay. I don't even know what that means.
I know.
And you're gonna have to match it to
And
the leather.
it's blue. It's like a crazy blue.
What decade was the sofa purchased in?
I don't know. Not one when I lived there.
Yeah, okay.
She went for like this like sort of Caribbean sort of thing, thus the green walls and the blue, like everything's very beachy.
Right. What if you just played Jimmy Buffett every time you left? Do you think that would help?
Maybe Jimmy Buffett and Bob Marley. Maybe I should just play No Woman, No Cry all day.
And now for some ads.
We know you love the Wise, unique, and wacky take on the world, so we know you'll love the Love Pod.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Dina.
We're a new dating, sex, and relationship podcast hosted by a few reality TV nerds.
Filters and clothing are optional. Content is not appropriate for kids.
So take a break from the nightmare of homeschooling and endless Zoom meetings.
Grab a glass of wine, sit back, and relax. We've got you covered.
Unless you're ready to have the birds and the bees convo with your kids, in which case we're strangely family-friendly, sort of.
Check us out every Tuesday on all major and minor podcasting apps while we offer the least qualified, funniest advice on the internet.
We also talk to your favorite reality TV stars about their love lives.
So what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button now.
When was the last time you paid to get into a Disney park?
July 18th, 1955.
And that was the first day that Disneyland opened?
Yeah, open to the public, yes.
And so, not to make too broad a question, but what was that like? You hear these stories now of the concrete's not dry and women's high heels getting stuck in the concrete, which while you were wearing high heels to Disneyland, I'm not sure.
It was brand new. Nobody knew better.
Well, we put this in a proper perspective now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm 12 years old, and I'm going to Disneyland. So it could have been whatever. And it would have been an experience of a lifetime because I had almost a year of advertising on Disneyland on TV on Wednesday nights. So mentally very prepared to go. It was a long wait, and it was hot. And very nice that my neighbor, Doug Harmon, wanted to go too, so we both went together and stood in line. And we used to ride over there before the park opened on our bicycles. And out front of the park, they had a big tower up there where they had the time-lapse photographer cameras up in that area. And we tried to climb that one time. And Burns Detective Agency, who was the security group at that time, wasn't real happy with us. But they didn't last long. Walt got rid of them probably in the first 6 months of operation. The story goes that he was out walking the park one night, and one of the Burns Detective Agency people stopped him, and he said, "Well, I'm Walt Disney, and I don't care who you are, you can't be in the park at night." And at that point, the Disneyland security group was formed.
Wow. So what was it? I mean, obviously, I remember my first time at Disney and, Disney World and subsequently Disneyland. I did it backwards a few years later, but I wanted to go back there every day for the rest of my life. But what was it about being there that made you realize at that young age that you wanted to be a part of the magic, not just be a visitor?
Well, first of all, I needed a job. And when we moved to Anaheim, Anaheim was considered rural, and you couldn't a 12-year-old couldn't get a paper route. You had to be 16 and have a driver's license in order to deliver papers in a rural community. But I could deliver Sunday papers. And so what I would do is I had a route that I established, about 20 people, and then any extra papers my manager would drop off, and I would pedal over and try to get over to Disneyland at shift change outside the Harbor Gate and sell the Sunday newspapers to those folks. Well, in the only the administration, maintenance, and attractions people worked for Disneyland. Everybody else was a lessee. So all the merchandise locations, all the food locations were lessees. There at Walt Disney World, they call them participants, elevated the name. But one of the lessees, Ray Ahmed, and his brother had the Castle News operation on Main Street. And part of that is they had stroller rentals and wheelchair rentals, and they had a little printing press in there, and they would put your name in the headline of the Disneyland newspaper, or a wanted poster, or that type of thing. And when I was selling to the employees on that Sunday morning, he says, when the park opens, I'll be out in front of the park on the right hand side or left hand side if you're looking at the park, and you can sell newspapers for me. And so the day after the 18th, on the 19th, I went and found Ray and went to work as a newspaper boy. And the deal was, if you sold 100 newspapers outside the park, then you could come inside the park and continue to sell newspapers. Well, selling 100 papers outside the park was a slam dunk. I had no problem with that at all. I used to, at 9 years old, I used to ride the bus up to the Coliseum and sell newspapers on game day. So selling to folks standing in the line was no problem at all for me. I talked to guys that ran the flight circle in Tomorrowland to let me come in and fly airplanes. So I would take my newspapers and my change pouch off, and I'd go in on the shows and fly airplanes, and then go back out and start selling newspapers. Folks at Pendleton, I worked for them a couple times, counting people, had a Verve route counter, and was counting people coming in and out of the store. So I tried to do a myriad of things out there. I actually got a job in the Disneyland circus. I don't know if that means anything to you, but there was a circus in the area about where the Matterhorn and Small World is, back in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in the winter of '55. And what I did is I worked I'd get out of school and I have to be there for the 4 o'clock show, and then they had another show at 7. And I would help the Mouseketeers mothers and chaperones get dressed, and they participated in the finale of each of the shows. Annette's mother was Flower, and Bobby Burgess's mother was either Chip or Dale, one of the chipmunks. Those two just remember, and I've sort of developed a relationship through the years with Bobby Burgess. We've our lives parallel. Our paths go in different directions, but every once in a while they come back and cross. And so we've met each other and talked and that type of thing. And I have some photos, and he has some photos of us together. We've done a lot of Disneyana conventions and fan club stuff. So that's sort of a long story to it, or to a short question, I guess.
Well, no,
Not at
it's
all.
fascinating, especially with the Disney Circus being such a small part of the park at the beginning that was Walt's baby, and then ending up having to do away with it. When did you meet Walt?
It was in the fall of '55, so somewhere in September, I think. Whenever he announced that he was going to build Tom Sawyer's Island, okay,
Mhm.
and one of the people I was selling newspapers, and one of the people in the Monsanto exhibit, and I can't remember who it was. It wasn't. Well, one of the reps in there basically said, "Hey, you look just like Tom Sawyer. You should ask Walt for a job. He's going to build Tom Sawyer's Island." And I thought that was one hell of an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fancy that.
And yeah, Walt came down frequently to the park. He'd come down on Friday afternoon, stay in the apartment, stay there on Saturday, Sunday morning, and then leave, then go back up to the studio. And so I tracked him down back behind the fire station. There was a break area back there, and had some tables, and he was coming or going from the apartment one to the other. And I introduced myself, and I told him I heard he was building Tom Sawyer's Island, and I looked just like Tom Sawyer, and he should hire me. He
What did he
didn't.
say?
He didn't, but he left the door open. He said, "I'd think about it." And I'm a pretty persistent individual. Okay, when I get focused on something, I'll keep going at it until somebody threatens to fire me or throw me in jail or what. But anytime I could find Walt after that time frame, I'd ask him, was he still thinking about hiring me to be Tom Sawyer? It was almost a year,
Wow.
probably six months later, somewhere in April, May of '56. I was in the Penny Arcade playing the baseball. I love that baseball machine. Playing the baseball machines, spending my hard-earned paper money, and Dick Nunes came over and tapped me on the shoulder. I don't know if Dick Nunes means anything to you, but Dick at that time was the supervisor of Frontierland. Tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Come with me, Tom." And if you know Dick, uh, when he said, "Come with me," you don't argue, you just go with Dick. And so we walked over to Frontierland and over the bridge there by the chicken plantation. And chicken plantation and Indian Village were all together right there in the Frontierland train station. And then you walked underneath the bridge and down to the RAP landing. So we're walking down there, and Walt and Morgan Evans, Bill Evans, the landscape architect for Disneyland, were coming off the island. And Walt said, "You still want to be Tom Sawyer?" And I said, "Oh, absolutely, Mr. Disney." And he's sort of giving me one of those eyeballs that you call me Walt, you don't call me Mr. Disney. But he said, "Okay," and understand, Walt was very, at least to me, very comfortable to talk with. He had two teenage daughters and a lot of child stars and actors and that type thing. And I know he visited the kids at the circus all the time, the Mickey Mouse Club folks. So yeah, he was real comfortable to talk to him. He says, "Tom, you need to get a work permit and a social security card. And when you do that, you come into the employment office, and I'll put you to work as Tom Sawyer." So that was sort of a slam dunk. The trip into the employment office was a story within itself. But yeah, okay, that's when I met Walt, and like I say, Walt was in the park frequently. He'd come in, he'd come out in the morning, and Walt didn't look like the Walt Disney that you saw on TV. He had usually 2-3 days growth of beard. He wore a sort of a Panama hat and a dark blue double-breasted blazer gray pants and either a blue or white shirt, and he always had that little smoke tree tie, little tiny short tie,
Mhm.
and he'd walk around the park and he'd talk to the landscape people and he'd talk to the security people and he'd talk to the ride operators and he'd talk with the guests until somebody would recognize him. And then once that happened, then he would get inundated with autographs, and some of the employees' job was in turn to approach Walt and say, do you want to go backstage? Because he didn't know all the exits from the various areas, and he would either tell you yes or no. And if he said yes, then you would help maneuver him to one of the exit doors. That's the last time that I met Walt. Was in 1962 in that scenario. I was going to lunch, and Walt was getting totally mobbed for autographs by the Oaks Tavern malt shop in Frontierland there. And I asked him, do you want to go backstage? And he said, yeah. And so we worked over and went through the gate. And as we went through the gate, I told him, I said, I don't know if you remember me or not, but you hired me to be Tom Sawyer. He says, oh, yeah. Yeah, you have to bring your report card in all the time. Yeah, so Dick could review it to keep your job. How you doing? That type of thing. So it was a very short but very personable conversation. That was in '62, and then after that, I ended up going into the Marine Corps for a couple of years, and that's when the New York World's Fair went, and when Walt passed. So fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, I wasn't working at the park when Walt passed. I came back in 1968, but under all the rules, they had to carry my employment consistently there and give me credit for the years that I spent in the service.
Sure.
Was that a big difference from when you were working there when Walt was present and then afterwards? Was there a change?
Yes and no. The people that I worked with were still there when I came back. So there wasn't a big change. There were a lot of new young supervisors and that because of the New York World's Fair, and they had already started to gear up and had told everybody, but had started to gear up for the opening of Walt Disney World. So I didn't feel anything other than the sadness in Walt's passing. Uh,
Mhm.
and if you look at it, he did develop one heck of a team.
So throughout your career, you started on Tom Sawyer Island. I know you worked the Jungle Cruise. What was your favorite part within the park to work? Since I know you obviously have
Well, I
moved
gotta
on.
say TSI. Yeah,
Really?
I spent 6 years of my life there as Tom Sawyer, and then another couple years as a summer and weekend attraction foreman. Uh,
Mhm.
so I'm going to have to stick that one on the top of the list. Uh, Jungle Cruise, I was never that Jungle Cruise skipper that got the standing ovation every time they took a cruise. There's a guy that I worked with down there by the name of Lee David, and every cruise that he came back in, he had a standing ovation. Yeah, Earl Archer would get the same thing, but I would get one every once in a while. That was a real warm feeling. But I rode on Lee's boat several times and picked up a little bit, but I could never get the audience response that Lee would get. He made the Jungle Cruise that everybody talks about.
So over the years, I've talked to people who've worked at Disney, in various capacities, and for some of them, being there for years has sort of killed the magic, but for others, it stays with them forever. And I feel like obviously with you, it's stayed with you. What do you think it is about that has kept it such a huge part of your life forever?
I hate to say this, but I think it's an intrinsic thing that you have to have to want to be involved in the entertainment business and to want to share. Now, Disney does one heck of a job of training and educating
Sure.
their employees going forward. And I think that's one of the things that really separates Disney from the other parks out there. And then a lot of it, if you go back to Walt, it was you do it right, and people will come back. And what's nice about the theme parks versus theater is theater you film it and you put it in a can and it's done. Okay. In the theme park side of it, if you want to change it a little bit, then you just shut it down, you rehab it, and you open it back up.
Sure.
Mhm.
One of those rehab things was on Tom Sawyer's Island. I know Walt came over and we walked the island, and he told me he's gonna do a major rehab of the island. And Tom, what do you think the island needs to have? And I pretty much told Walt, I said, it needs an escape tunnel from Fort Wilderness, and it needs a treehouse. And sure enough, in '58, when it came back up from the rehab, it had a treehouse, and it had an escape tunnel. It also had Teeter Totter Rock and Merry-Go-Round Rock and Castle Rock. Well, I won't take credit for the rocks, but I did art direct, and I did get an escape tunnel and a treehouse out of the deal. But Walt was very very interested, and he'd come out and he'd want to fish, and so we'd sit there on the dock and talk for a while, and then he'd say, let's go for a walk. And I got to he shared a lot of his insight and thought about the island. And Walt was the art director on the island. Other people drew whatever he wanted, but he was
Right.
pretty much the art director, and back to what he wanted to do in Marceline and in that area. And he said, "Hey, I put the paths here uh, for the adults. I want the kids to explore, and if I really don't want somebody going someplace, then I plant holly bushes and I plant whatever bush or whatever. They had a lot of stickers and that type of thing. And the only real fence that was on Tom Sawyer's Island was behind the fort." And that was to keep people from going back by the burning cabin. But the rest of it was, let the kids, don't do it. Every once in a while, you get a security host that was uh, wanted to enforce rules and wanted everybody to stay on the path, not just the adults. And there's a couple times that Walt changed that real quick.
You
Uh,
can't do that on Tom Sawyer Island.
Oh.
yeah,
Please. Yeah, you're supposed to be off the path.
Right, that's true.
you look at the island, it was just one big gigantic babysitter.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Good
definitely.
point.
yeah, yeah,
You're a member of Club 55, which is people who were working at Disneyland on opening day or that first year, correct?
yes,
You're a Disney legend, and you also, which I guess is the highest honor you can get, you have a window with your name on it on Main Street at Disney World.
yeah. I think you got a little out of sequence.
Oh, sorry.
The
Win
window was the cream de creme,
Right.
until all of a sudden somebody told me I was going to be a Disney legend, and that was the thing that I just if you look at the number of employees and to be just to be considered for that
Mhm.
award, and not just to be honored with it. You're talking. I think Disney's up to 200,000 employees now.
Sure.
Okay,
Right.
and it's every other year. There's about 10 folks or so are made legends. So, that went right to the uh, top of the pile. And
Mm.
it opens the doors along it. Now the difference is I'm not an artist and I'm not an actor. I convinced Walt to hire me, and I used to say I was the youngest employee with the most longevity with the company. And I think I can pretty much come real close to now saying that I'm probably the only person alive that actually was hired by Walt Disney to work at Disneyland.
Wow.
Wow. So what perks come with Disney Legend? Do you get like a coupon book or just get into the parks whenever you want? What's
Uh,
the
you,
what's the
you,
upside?
yeah, you get a beautiful statue.
Okay.
Puppy stands about so high and weighs 16 pounds,
Oh,
and I have it out in the living room here. Uh, you get invited back to the Legends ceremonies that happen. D23 is now doing them every other year. Now I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what's going to happen this year because
Yeah.
because they had to cancel their 20th program and move to the 21st. So
mhm.
I'm not sure if they're going to have the Legends Award or they're going to push that back a year, but we'll see
Right.
on that one. And then I also get a lifetime pass.
Oh, that's
That's
nice.
that's I think, yeah, people have killed for less. So
Yeah. So what's it like now when you go to the park?
Well, it has changed drastically in the last few years. Before we would go out we probably spent more time in Epcot World Showcase
Mm-hmm.
than any of the parks after I had retired. The problem I had with retirement, I was either recovering or getting ready for surgery. I've had both knees replaced, both hips
Mm-hmm.
replaced. So I went through a little bit of a cycle of orthopedic surgery,
Yeah.
and then I had a little bit of a bout that somewhere along my right quadricep decided it didn't want to talk to my brain anymore,
ouch.
and
Mm.
I was on a walker for almost 18 months. All of a sudden, it decided to start working again. And so I had a physical therapist that I'd worked with on several of my other surgeries, and I called him and he says, "You get your butt in here right now," and we started working on it, and he probably got me back to about 60%. So I was very happy. Thought I was going to be on in a walker or on a cane or a wheelchair for the rest of my life, and that sort of changed along there. I don't know. Maybe Walt was up there looking down and decided that I needed to be able to get up and walk around.
Yeah. But when you're at the park, what do you think about Walt? Do you think about kind of what his vision has become? What goes through your mind when you're sitting on a park bench watching
Well, first
everybody go
I'll try
by?
to find a park bench.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
good
good
point.
point.
Yeah,
Very good
that
point.
I 20 years ago, that wouldn't have made a whole lot of difference to me. But now, being in the park and being the age that I am, it's nice to find a place to sit down. And there are very few places anymore to sit down, especially in the hub area at Disneyland and at Walt Disney World. I can't speak for the other parks. I've only been to Paris. I haven't been to any of the Asian parks out there.
Mhm.
We need to back up a little bit because basically your one question about visiting the parks, and I
Yes.
answered part of it, but the other side of it is I got a granddaughter.
Oh,
Mm.
Okay, and Iris is going to be 5 in September, and sort of watching her now grow through that, and boy, I've sure learned a lot about Disney princesses.
I bet.
For more information on Tom, you can visit his website, tomnabbe, Nabbe.com, and you can also get a copy of his memoir, Walt Hired Me There. You can also find him on Facebook, where he is at facebook.com/Disney legend Tom Nabbe.
You can follow us on all the various socials. Our website is whythepodcast.com and has all sorts of additional stories and videos. It's also where you can sign up for our newsletter. We're also on YouTube if you're into that kind of thing. And don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes, because if you don't, we'll call your mother and tell her that she's completely right. You would look so much prettier if you smiled more.
Why the Podcast is part of Mudhouse Media. Today's show was produced by myself and Heidi Hegquist. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing executive producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our graphic designer is Samantha Mustonen. The theme song was performed by the Electrosynth-O-Magnetic Polyphonic Orchestra. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?